Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my first ever YouTube video and my first ever Little Nightmares theory. In this video, I'm going to explain my theory that Very Little Nightmares actually takes place after Little Nightmares 3. To understand this theory, let's go ahead and let's take a look at the beginning of Very Little Nightmares, when the girl who we know as the Raincoat Girl crash lands into the nest in a hot air balloon. Obviously, hence her name, she's wearing a raincoat, which looks very identical to the raincoat 6 wears. That's important later, not right now. Anyways, skipping through the majority of Very Little Nightmares, we get to the end of the game, and Raincoat Girl, unfortunately, falls into the ocean, and only her raincoat floats back up, which would imply that she died. Now, to understand how I think this all takes place after Little Nightmares 3, let's rewind back to the beginning of A Very Little Nightmares. Raincoat Girl comes in on a hot air balloon. Well, in Little Nightmares 3, in the carnival chapter of the game, we can very clearly see there are hot air balloons just about everywhere. And Lowen Alone actually escaped the carnival in the main game in a hot air balloon. Now, while we are playing the Little Nightmares 3 Backstage DLC, there's a part where we have to sneak behind the puppeteer, aka the Perfect Lady. We can see a lot of kids sitting on the ground, but we can see one kid specifically sitting up on some sort of cabinet or table, and the Perfect Lady is brushing this kid's hair. I think that was done intentionally because the Raincoat Girl is very, very specifically known for her braids. And the girl whose hair is being brushed by the puppeteer, well, it just so happens to look exactly like the Raincoat Girl's braids. It is identical. So yes, I do believe that this girl who is being taken care of is the same girl who we play as in Very Little Nightmares. Now you might be thinking, well, she doesn't have a raincoat here, obviously. Well, in the DLC, there is a part where you can see a yellow raincoat hanging up next to some other clothes. And honestly, I would even argue that I believe the puppeteer was the one who made this raincoat. As we know from the DLC, Lo, Alone, and Dime, they eventually kill the puppeteer. And then they go through the mirror, and unfortunately Dime does not make it out, but that is not important right now. Rest in peace, Dime, but that is not important. The carnival, or at least that part of the carnival, the backstage, is now left completely vulnerable. The one main enemy of that area, the puppeteer, is, long gone. Dead and gone. Thanks to my goat, Alone. Now that this part of the carnival lacks the threat of any kind of enemy, all these kids are able to just escape. Now, I believe Raincoat Girl is one of the kids who escaped from the carnival after we killed the puppeteer. As she was finding a way out, she managed to come across the raincoat that the puppeteer made. She put the raincoat on, and she escaped on a hot air balloon, the exact same way Lowen Alone escaped in the main game. As you know from the main game, Lowen Alone crashed the hot air balloon into the Institute, which is where they fight Otto, also known as the Hypnotist. But I believe Raincoat Girl crashed into the nest, which would completely explain why on earth some little girl was just riding a hot air balloon in the first place. I honestly think maybe the same storm that wiped out Lowen Alone's hot air balloon is the one that wiped out Raincoat Girl's hot air balloon. Lowen Alone happened to crash somewhere else. The Raincoat Girl crashed into the nest. On the nest, obviously we know Six was there. The Raincoat Girl died, right? After the Raincoat Girl's death, Six is able to escape. And somewhere in that time frame, I'm not exactly sure when or how, she ends up getting captured by the Hunter. As we know from the comics, Mono sees her get captured by the Hunter, and he goes to rescue her. Mono and Six, then they sail on this this door across an ocean, conveniently, where they eventually end up in the Pale City. Later on in the Pale City, Mono and Six come across a yellow raincoat. Obviously, Mono and Six traverse through the Pale City, eventually making it to the end, where Six then drops Mono, unfortunately. There's a lot of debates on whether she's evil or not. I won't get into that. I think it's 50-50. Mono falls, he becomes the Thin Man, and we know that that is like a time loop. That is what created the time loop. And we also know, after the events of Little Nightmares 2, Six goes to the mall. We know this because of this scene right here at the end of Little Nightmares 2, when Six looks at a paper that has the maw on it. I'm not sure how she got there. My theory was always maybe it was the ferryman, but from what I know, the ferryman takes kids to the nowhere. He does not Uber them around the nowhere, but that's irrelevant. She makes it to the maw, and eventually she ends up killing the lady and escaping. This is actually where the story goes blank, because as far as we know, Little Nightmares 1 is the latest game in, like, the lore order. In the chronological canon lore order, Little Nightmares 1 is the latest that it goes. So, I'm not actually sure what happens to 6 after she escapes the maw. But I would believe that concludes it for my first theory. I'm sorry if it was a little messy and all over the place. I'm not good at explaining things. Like, I can't explain anything. I could not tell you why. I'm not good at explaining things. I will go back on myself and repeat the same point 15 times before moving on to the next point. I just ramble and rant for, like, I'm doing it right now, which is why I'm stuttering. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to end the video. I hope you guys liked my theory. I'm not sure if it's true because, you know, in the end, it is just a theory, a game theory. But thank you for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. I'm not sure when that will be. I'm not great at coming up with theories, so we will see.